We set something up while you were gone.
Yeah, this looks like a really short one.
Good evening. Welcome to our school committee meeting for this Wednesday, January 8th, 2020. It is 7 o'clock, and I'd like to call our meeting to order, please. Could we all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. First up, we have our student representatives from the middle school. We have Zachary Sargent and William Bushy. Come on up, guys. And feel free to move that microphone over in between you.
Good evening. My name is Zach Sargent, and I am here with William Bushy. We are student council members in 7th grade. Winter sports are well underway now. Girls and boys basketball has picked up, and both teams have started their games. The boys' record so far is 4-0, and the girls is 1-3. Both teams have many more games to improve and blend together as a group. Indoor track is also available for any 7th and 8th graders, 7th and 8th grade students interested. Indoor track is a high school level sport, so students can experience that level of competition. Track meets are held at Northridge Heights High School's indoor track. The meets are usually once a week with occasional weekend meets. Currently, 8 8th graders are on track and are doing all well.
LEGO Robotics held its 3rd annual teacher-student dodgeball. The tickets were $1 each, with proceeds to funding to make a Douglas Library more accessible for disabled students. They worked on their research project, which also pertained to making the library more accessible. The LEGO Robotics team then competed at WPI on the 7th of December, where they faced off against different teams from local areas. Their goal was to design, build, and program a robot that would complete a series of missions. Both teams did well, and the group titled Backstreet Builders were able to take the trophy home. A presenter, Brian Lynch, came to our school to engage 30 students in hands-on STEM activities. He talked about what their company does and how they change lives.
December 20th, the annual Winter Olympics was held for the entire student body. Student council worked vigorously over the course of a few months to make the Winter Olympics another day of fun and teamwork. Each activity challenged students to cooperate well with their groups and to overcome challenges in trivia. The countries competed for medals and glory for their country. Student council will also be selling concessions at all home basketball games. The proceeds will go to the student council for events later in the year.
Benchmarks are being completed starting this week. The NWEA test is being used for math, science, reading, and language. All other subjects are being completed in individual classes. Thank you for having us, and have a nice evening.
Great.
Excellent job.
A lot of stuff going on.
Yeah.
Excellent job.
Very good.
Any questions for our student representatives this evening? Thanks a lot, guys. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you, Mrs. Hayes.
Okay. Next up, we have our public comment and communication section, which I am going to skip over because we have no public here this evening. I will use this moment to invite any and all public to join us at our upcoming meetings. We get lonely here. Any old business anyone would like to discuss this evening? Any new business? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to our superintendent's report. Mr. Maines.
Very much. A couple of things that happened just very recently that I wanted to add in just while they're fresh in my memory. One of the programs that we were able to implement was a course in robotics here at the high school this year. First year we've had it, and they had a competition team put together, and they had a recent competition. There were 20 teams from area schools, and they came in 9th place. They did very well. Excellent act. The kids really enjoyed it. Mr. Reardon and Mr. LaChapelle were the advisors who took them there. Went really, really well. It was an all-day event.
Yeah.
It was also the day of the fateful Patriots game, so they were trying to get home for the Patriots game, and then they had that. But anyways, another story for another day.
So when you say we have a course in robotics, is that an elective?
It's an elective, right.
So it's held for just one trimester, or?
So it's a full year course.
Okay.
And it's everything from building the robots, to
Yep.
programming the robots, to coding the robots, to actually having them engage in specific activities. It's really very interesting. I've been able to get in there a number of times this year, and I'm sorry, this is the second year. We had it last year as well. Last year, I think we had only a few kids that were interested. This year, we have a full class of students who are
Yep.
taking it. And I think we were talking today at the admin meeting that might be something that we would like to look to as a Robotics 2 class, a second year of an elective in it, because there seems to be it's gaining a lot of interest. So that just happened over the weekend, and
Great.
I wanted to make sure I mentioned it.
Can I ask you a question?
Yep.
Follow up? Or maybe you're going to discuss that, but one of those teachers,
Yes,
is he still?
Mr. LaChapelle, he has retired. He has retired, yes. He
So it's
has.
now just going to be Mr. Reardon doing it?
So next year will be, well, depending upon who takes Mr. LaChapelle's position. So we'll post and try to hire. Right now, we have a long-term sub in there because we weren't able to find the person we were looking for to teach the position. So, but Mr. Reardon is doing the robotics, and he'd like to stay with it. So if he's going to stay with it, great. But we want to keep the program going. We would like to expand it to a second year if we could, which is great. Then if we could get the gentleman the woman that we hire, whoever we hire for the teaching position, if they can bring the coding piece in, then it's a win-win. We'd marry the two of them together, and we'd be in really great shape.
Right.
So that's one of the things that we'll look for when we post and fill that position. Yesterday, the Worcester County Superintendents Association had their annual Scholars Luncheon. Last year's guest was Maureen. This year, Lauren D'Amico was our student who attended. Wonderful event at the College of the Holy Cross. So we wanted to recognize Lauren for being our scholar this year. And it's all of the towns in all of central Massachusetts. Really nice event. They get a nice little gift, and a little bit of a bio was read about them and so forth for all the different students. So it was really good. So that was yesterday, and wanted to make sure I added it in there. The first thing I had on the list, though, was Memorandum of Agreement on the mutual aid. Just a little follow-up on that. Spoken to about 5 or 6 of the other districts out of the list that's on there. All very interested in signing on. They think it's a great idea. I've asked them to do the same thing that you're doing, is proofing it and seeing what the final version is going to look like. We have a meeting next Friday in Mendon, and the topic would be to try to get a vote on superintendents signing off on agreeing to the mutual aid. So as soon as you guys, and you have one more opportunity to do a reading on it, I'll make all of the changes, and then we'll give you the final version for the final reading. They may bring a number of changes that they want, so I would say we probably won't do that final reading until in February sometime.
Okay.
Because I'll need some time to wordsmith it.
Yep.
Okay, I didn't know if there was anything else in there that anybody.
No, looks good.
Good,
Thank you.
okay. Quick update on the boys volleyball piece. Mrs. Sokol has reached out. Unfortunately, the other piece of it is that somebody has to reach back out. So she's heard from 2 schools, Mendon, Upton on Nipmuc, and I think it was Bellingham was the other school. And they were okay with trying to make something happen. None of the other schools, and so I charged her with trying to beat the door down a little bit and come back in 2 weeks, and by then we'll know, should we do a club, or should we really try to, I mean, at this point, we'd have a 4-game schedule right now, so, so that, and by the way, I did check, we were talking about, if we had to, could we use the middle school, and the middle school is not, does not have the apparatus to put a volleyball, so, but the elementary does, but the problem with the elementary is that they don't finish school until after 3, and they use it for enrichment, so. But anyways, so she's gonna reach out again, she's gonna continue to reach out and get an idea. She thinks that she can make some club things happen, in some contests happen, but I don't know that we'll be able to get a legitimate schedule of 20 games like the other schools are playing, so.
Okay.
But we'll continue to try. So that's the update on that. One of the things that we had talked about at the last meeting was, bless you, was about possibly expanding some of the offerings at the middle school. I think we started talking about that because of the volleyball down there. And one of the things that we had talked about at the admin meeting today was that I think Courtney said 5 years that we've been doing middle school athletics, and the participation numbers have been really, really strong. And the question is, are there students still in the building who might have an interest in something else that we might be able to offer? So one of the things that we talked about was looking at possibly starting a field hockey club program. Because field hockey has unfortunately been not something that we can't maintain. We're doing a co-op right now, as you know, at the high school level. And actually, I think there's 5 or 6 students from the middle school that are on that co-op right now. So, maybe we could do a club type of program down there to try to generate some interest that would then spur something at the high school. The volleyball for boys, could you start something down there, a club volleyball for boys that might generate some interest for kids coming up to play? And I think the only other thing that we had talked about was in the fall, instead of those two who are doing cross-country, would we try to do a club girls volleyball as well? But that was before we realized that there's no stanchions there so that would have to go over to the elementary school to do it. So
Yeah, there are mobile volleyball nets. That's what
right. So we thought about that.
Yeah.
If we weren't going to play games,
They have the
that
big
we would
weighted
get
bases and, the
we would
freestanding
do that.
ones. So,
If we weren't going to do games,
we-
but you couldn't play games on those. You'd have to have a certified stanchions.
they have to, they don't use the mobile ones for
No.
okay. Guess I'm showing my age there, so.
But again, just something for discussion as an opportunity. If we want to bring back a field hockey team, it really would be helpful to have a field hockey club that
Right.
plays. Maybe they play in the fall and they play in the spring because they.
There's not a lot of options for girls. I mean, a lot of girls will tend to dance and do gymnastics,
Right.
but you don't see those high numbers even with basketball. I mean,
Right.
for a while it was very slim
Well,
pickings.
I agree, but I was interested that today, there's quite a number of girls playing in
They're
the
carrying
basketball program. and
16
they-
this year,
Now
yeah.
it is.
Despite without town programs really that,
Yeah.
there's quite a few, there was probably 12 or 13, 14 14 on that team.
I think they had 16 tonight,
16.
yeah, so, which I thought it was
Picked up
15,
a
so it's
couple
fine.
years
so.
ago,
Yeah.
2 years ago, I think it
So.
started to really pick up.
And-
Yeah,
and-
the
middle
sixth grade
school.
class right now has been pretty big into basketball, and then I think a lot of new seventh graders just decided to try it
Just
this
try it
year,
out.
so.
I noticed that the JV game, the girls won,
Yeah,
and the entire team was 8th graders and I think maybe 2 9th graders.
yeah,
So,
So I think-
so,
comes in waves, it's
It
just,
does.
yeah, it just comes and goes. yeah.
but part of it is giving them the opportunities to participate in that in that type of activities.
Yeah.
And we've asked Mr. Smith to look at some possibilities of can he bring the field hockey as a skill in the elementary school for kids,
Yeah.
just to get to know how to use a stick and play. And we even talked a little bit about lacrosse, if there's a safer way to play lacrosse at the younger
Yeah.
age. We don't have a lacrosse program, but down the road, you may want to have a lacrosse
Yeah.
program.
Do they do golf too?
We have golf, yep.
No, I mean in a gym program, a physical education.
It's
program?
funny, the high school did it. The high school does it. They have tees and they have the wiffle balls
okay.
and so forth. So they do, and they actually have the net.
Oh, the-
When the cage is up for baseball, they can hit into the net as well there, so.
I know surveys aren't always a great way to get, but I wonder if, is it worth sending out a survey to our middle schoolers, saying, if we were to offer
If you
new
want to
sports,
charge me with doing that, I can do that.
Yeah. I think it'd be worth it. If we're talking about adding some things, it'd be worth just kind of surveying, maybe the
Seeing what
current
the
fifth grade
interest
group as well as
Yeah.
everything in the middle school now around,
That's what we would do,
are
right.
there sports, if we were to add something, what would you like to add, and maybe give us your top 3 choices, that kind of deal for everybody and see what comes back, and cast a wide net,
Yeah.
throw
I
out
mean-
the lacrosses and the whatever and see what people have to say.
I think the only program that you could possibly get a schedule for would be girls volleyball.
Yeah.
I think most everybody else at the
Yeah, I
middle
think it would
school
probably be
level,
kind of club things,
they
but I
do
think
a
those
lot like
club
we do.
things
They
can be
call
worth it,
kids
because
up.
then they then end up feeding into
Right.
potentially something at the high school level, so, yeah.
It might not feel like as much of a commitment on the students' part also. If it's club,
If it's club,
and they're
right.
trying it out, like,
Right.
I've never done field
Yeah.
hockey before, but I feel like there's
Right.
less pressure if
Yeah,
it's
and it
not.
might not be 5 days a
And
week
now
of
the
it, it could be
parents,
2 or
yeah,
3 days a
as
week
well,
of it.
Because the
and-
parents
Yeah.
can't.
Because the
It's
parents are
exposure.
gonna be
And they're still
driving
doing
them,
it.
and if,
Right.
Yeah.
a lot of them have younger kids, and if
Yeah.
it's a club, it might be a little bit
Right.
easier on the
Right.
A little less
parents
of a
as well.
demand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
High school, the
again,
kids drive themselves, you
they
let them.
don't know
off.
they want to play field hockey unless they've had an opportunity to be exposed to field hockey, so.
Yeah, and I think you need a little bit more exposure than just what you would see during a gym class. You know,
Right.
I think it helps to have that next level up of exposure, if you can do it, you know, and.
So we'll look at, possibilities, some clubs, I'll get a survey out and so
Okay.
forth. Get that going. And then, just a quick update for you, we've, today, it took us a while, but we did. We finalized the January PD schedule. So the professional development day is on the 17th, a week from Friday. One of the things, and I don't know if everybody's familiar with it, one of the things that always was an issue, was funding for professional development back 7-8 years ago and trying to get people to come in and present. But the other piece of it was, and over the last 3 years, we've tried to do a little bit more of sitting with the Douglas Teachers Association and getting feedback on what they would like to see and coming to a consensus between them and the administrative group. So we did I asked them to do a survey. They did send out a survey, and the two areas that were the most prominent were, 3 areas that were most prominent were mindfulness, which is sort of that, I think we talked about this, training for breathing and calming and so forth, and then how that translates into the classroom. And the other was for CPR, first aid, AED, and so forth. So we do have 3 staff members in district who are certified CPR or first aid trainers. So they're going to do the training for that. So we have a session for that. So we have a group. In the morning, they'll have to choose between the mindfulness or the CPR first aid. Those were the 2 biggest numbers. And then in the afternoon, the other thing they had asked for was, a number had asked for vertical teaming, and the other many others had asked for horizontal. So vertical teaming is working with up on the grade levels, and horizontal is really working across the whole breadth of the grade levels, and getting 1 together with 2, but then getting 2 together with 3, and then getting 3 together with 2, but then 3 together with 4, and really having a structure so that they talk a lot about transition, teaching styles, what are you doing for stations or centers, whatever you like to use for word, how do they respond to it? Just to actually have that professional conversation and to talk about what's successful, what's not so successful. Just kind of an opportunity to talk about the transition from one grade to the next. So the plan is all in place, and we've given them some suggestions for discussion topics. Each of the principals and Neely and will be going into different groups to try to sort of be a conduit or a starter on it, and then try to back away and let them have their conversation so we keep them structured. So
You're doing vertical and horizontal?
So we're just
Okay.
we're just going to do horizontal because we're already doing the vertical teaming. So
Oh, I gotcha.
which is
Okay.
good because now it's really specific. Like I said, 1 with 2, 2 with 3,
Yeah.
K with 1. It's those next door neighbors. So 8 will go up to 9
Yeah.
here at the high school.
Yeah.
It's just a great opportunity that they don't normally have an opportunity, and it's not by department. It's really by teachers, by groups.
Right.
So that's the schedule for the day. Again, those are all things that those are the 3 dominant selections in their survey. We agreed with it, the mindfulness as well, and the CPR are all great things. So that's what January will look like.
Right?
Okay? And those are the things that I had in there.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Maines? Okay. If not, we'll move on to our school committee and subcommittee reports and our accounts payable report.
Okay, on December 19th, 2019, I signed 10 batches totaling $113,541. And on 12/23/19, 10 batches totaling $280,151.22, and nothing unusual.
I will also, any questions for Lisa? I will also note that from a negotiations subcommittee meeting we have had our first subcommittee meeting for negotiations. We'll be releasing the notes on those kind of after we're done with the negotiations, in this case on the, primarily with the DTA, but it also goes along with the our cafeteria workers and custodians as well. We'll eventually get looped into all of our negotiations work for this year. And we have another subcommittee meeting coming up, and we'll have our first, I think, proposal meetings with the DTA on the 28th
28th,
of
right.
January, and we have established a meeting schedule with them. Will be the 20th will be first, and then 2 weeks after that, and 2 weeks after that. I don't know the dates off the top of my head, but kind of consecutive or every other Tuesday there for a while that we scheduled out here for that. So first meeting that we did have with them went well, just to establish kind of the ground rules for negotiations, and so looking forward to getting that into full swing. And I still owe this group a bunch of budget subcommittee meeting minutes, which I promise is on my New Year's resolution list to get going and get back to you guys soon. So,
And we do have a budget subcommittee meeting coming up
yes.
yeah.
And we do have a budget subcommittee meeting next week, right?
Yeah.
Next week on, I forget now, I lost track of the date.
15th, yeah. So,
No, that's the negotiation, I think it was
Wednesday.
Wednesday, the
Yeah.
15th, right?
15th,
for
yeah.
that.
So, okay. So with that, we'll move on to our consent agenda. First up, we have our meeting minutes for December 10th, which was our combined meeting with the Finance Committee. Are we missing a set of meeting minutes? Because wouldn't we have had another school committee meeting?
Yeah, I thought so too, but
Yeah.
maybe she just
So I
hasn't
think we're
completed
short.
them yet.
Yeah, so we're short a set of meeting minutes here.
Yeah,
Wait a minute, so December 10th,
with the
December
finance,
meeting minutes for the,
finance committee.
Yeah,
oh, I was gonna say, I don't think we had one last.
We did,
No.
because we had the one that you weren't here.
right, Brett wasn't
Yes.
here for
Oh, yeah, that was one, yes.
Yeah,
We
that's
had
the
one
one.
after
Yeah.
that, yeah.
Right.
Okay.
18th, 19th, something.
But we also would have had one before this that we haven't approved meeting minutes for as well,
Well,
correct?
I'll ask Lauren to check with the ones.
Thought we
that
had the
missing.
first December meeting.
Oh, no,
was
so you would have
already
approved those meetings at the 23rd, that's what I'm
Right.
thinking of. So
Yeah.
it's just the
That's why
23rd.
I think it's
that
just
we
one
did.
meeting.
Right.
Well, I'll
There's a
I'll
sake,
look at
there's,
it.
the
18th.
24th
Yeah.
was, that 25th was, Christmas.
Right.
Yeah, no, so
Right. We
the
met the
18th was the,
18th.
yeah, so the 18th we
Was the
don't
meeting,
have, that's what it is.
Yeah, mhm.
Okay. Anyways,
Yeah.
So these are the finance committee.
yes, this is the meeting for that, our combination of the Finance Committee. We had 3 of us there for that meeting, so we did have a quorum, so we had called an open meeting to order for the school committee. Yeah, I think the conversation was quite a bit longer than what you see here. I think it was a good, productive conversation, but I don't see any issue with any of the notes that are here.
No, it looks fine, yeah.
If, you can go back and view the meeting if you want more details, but I thought it was a good conversation, a good way to kind of kick off the budget season with the Finance Committee. A little bit early, but, it was nice to lay some kind of groundwork with them, which they were, eager to get at, and I think it was, we were more than happy to provide as well, so.
That was good.
Okay, if there are no issues, I'll look for a motion to approve our December 10th, 2019 School Committee/Finance Committee meeting minutes.
So moved.
Motion from Lisa,
Second.
and second from Kelly. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any abstain or opposed?
Abstain.
1 abstain,
Oh, abstain.
2 abstain, okay. So we have 3
I
ayes
trust you.
and 2 abstains.
Sorry, I
Yeah, just- I had a feeling, but I wanted to make sure, so, okay. So those are approved. Next up, DES-PTO donation to the art program. So we have to, consent to a donation?
Yes, basically, pursuant to Mass General Law, but
Yeah.
also there are ones that, smaller ones, I believe, that a superintendent can also accept.
Gotcha.
But this was fairly large, and certainly we want to put it on
Appreciate
the
it.
agenda to
To thank them.
to
Yeah.
also to thank them and bring it
Recognize
to your
them, yeah.
attention
Yeah.
and.
I appreciate that.
About the donation, so they did meet with, Mr. Bell did meet with the art teacher and Mr. Scafidi, and came up with this listing of needs that we have for the art program.
That's great.
So everybody worked together very well to come up with good use for the funds that they have available.
Yeah, just for those at home, the PTO, Douglas PTO for primary and elementary school has raised $6,854, or they're donating $6,854.75 to the primary and elementary schools to be used on art supplies, or in the art program, I should say. So just looking for a motion to accept the donation as stated.
I move to accept the donation from the Douglas PTO as stated.
Okay, we have a motion from Becky,
Second?
a second from Lisa. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? How dare you. All right.
I just
So
want to
that is
echo also, Brett, the thanks to the Douglas PTO. That's a
Yeah,
generous,
those-
that's a very generous
Yeah.
donation.
That group
and,
does a great job, and
certainly won't go to waste either. They'll
No.
use all of that stuff, so. that's
greatly
great.
appreciate it. I'll use this opportunity for anyone watching to, please support your local PTO programs. I know there's a handful of people that do a yeoman's share of the work there. I know there's probably dozens more that kind of lend a hand here and there in different events, but I know that the folks working on that PTO kind of work their butts off all year long to be able to do some really great things down for the elementary and primary schools. So thank you. Okay, with that, we'll move on to our school business and operation manager's report. Ms. Keegan.
First I'll do, I know it's flipped around, but first I'll go over the budget report.
Okay.
So I know it's been a little bit, this year's been a little bit interesting. So I ended up, even though I had a bunch more transfers to do, I figured I just got to get you a budget report.
Yeah.
So after Jean posts these, I'll do it again. So just looking at the budget report, so the bottom line balance is $437,507.50, but that includes the transportation. So if you back it off, and I forgot
Yeah.
to do it manually at the end again, I apologize
okay.
for that. So the transportation amount we have left, which was excellent news, and actually there'll be a little bit more that we actually have left that'll go back to the town. I mean, at this point.
Yeah.
At this point, $127,882. So that's actually very good news.
Yeah.
Of course, we still have some more time, knock on wood, hopefully this is wood under here, that it'll stay in good stead.
Now, again, I hate to jinx it, but is that
Yeah.
just because we have just
Just changes
Less-
in special ed.
Yeah, just changes it in-
Yep,
okay.
ones that needed it and then don't, and when we had, that's
Okay.
just what happens,
That's great.
yeah, with students.
Okay.
So the operating budget balance at this point in time is $309,625.50. So the reason I bring that to your attention is, if you'll recall, and this year's been a little bit different, we did do some additions to the budget, and I know I've never done this before, but it seemed reasonable, that we have two items that I actually left in the red, and you'll see that in the report, and I will delineate those for you. Because if you see, the balance, we always have a balance at the end of the year. If we need to, we'll put some to school choice at the end of the year, but I'm sure we can accommodate it. One of those is a kindergarten teacher in the amount of $47,127.30.
Yep.
And then the other one is kindergarten para, $21,082.42. So that leaves, that amount, those
It's
two
on
together,
pages 6 and 7 for
is $68,209.72. And then also, I want to remind you that we also had the middle school, I think it was the water, yeah. So we had several projects that we weren't expecting this year. We had the elementary school grease interceptor tank,
Yep.
which was around that amount as well. We covered that, and then this came along. So we were over $33,000 that we were accommodating that wasn't budgeted.
Right.
So this, if you'll recall, just to bring it to your attention, that we were hoping that at the town meeting, I keep switching, I'm sorry, the annual town meeting, that they will be able to cover that.
Okay.
That remains to be seen, but we did have some preliminary discussions with the town, and maybe they can use some of what hopefully will be left over at the end of the year in transportation to do so. So I'm just bringing that to your attention. So in total, what we have there is $84,469.72. But again, much under the $309,625.50. But that being said, of course, we keep our eye on the bottom line, because to some extent, we're always looking for that carry forward as well. So,
Yep.
but that seems to be good. So all we end up doing is, if we had put it in school choice, we would just end up doing all that work to bring it
Transfer it
all
back
the way
out,
back to transfer it back into the general fund. So,
No, it's-
so those are the only things I'm trying to think. So in the transfers that I've presented to you this evening, it does cover the other addition to the budget was the additional radios. That has been covered in here. So all of the transfers that I have for you this evening are either requests by the administrators, or basically I'm just going through the budget, because it has been a little bit of time this year. I got a little bit behind in covering everything. So basically, I was able to cover every single thing on this sheet that you see here, except for the 3 items delineated to you.
Okay.
So that worked out well, because to be honest with you, I was looking at it thinking, oh my goodness, my goodness, so it worked out well. And I had a little bit left over, so.
Okay.
Hopefully we'll, so that's good news about the transportation. And as you'll see in one of the special ed tuition accounts in the general fund, there's funding available as well.
great.
So, knock on wood.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, I'm not
It's
touching it.
early. Yep, no,
I'm not touching
no.
it. There's certain accounts that I just don't even touch.
Yeah, but I would say,
try to get from everywhere else.
given the
but that's
time of
good
year,
news.
how far into the year we are, it's
Yep.
good news to kind of be in the shape that we are, so.
Right, right. So we're in very good stead. So I wondered if anybody had any questions regarding the general fund budget or the budgetary transfers. I think if there's anything else that. And this also includes taking into consideration, because Ed LaChapelle retired, so we have his
Yeah.
exact pay.
So did you retire as of January 1st? Is that?
It
or
was
as of-
actually the
November
26th, I think, it was,
22nd, or something like that, yeah.
23rd.
Whatever the day, the last day before we went on
23rd,
vacation.
yeah.
How about that? Whatever the
So,
day was.
are-
3 weeks ago.
Are we going to finish the year with a long-term sub for him, or? are
So we have a long-term sub in place,
But
who
we go
started
for his
right away,
position?
so we didn't lose any time in
Okay.
between.
But we're looking to hire someone.
Right, so we want to
For
be able to
next
wait
year,
until probably March and post it and see what we get for an interest. Students maybe coming out of school at that point that might be looking for it.
Okay.
So I think we'll get, it's hard to find somebody in the middle of the year when you're looking for a position. So we decided to go with a long-term sub and
Post
give it a
later
shot.
in the year. Okay.
What was he teaching?
So Ed did a variety of different computer science classes. He did a Java, he did a, what is it, when you create, what's it? Video games, video games, C++, is it a Python? I think it's Python.
Python?
Is it
Python, yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
Computer program. Computer program.
There you go, that pretty much sums it up.
Okay.
So he taught a lot of different things.
Right,
Yeah,
yeah.
they started with Python, did Java, now they're
So,
C++.
but we had already engaged in conversation with Mr. LaChapelle a little bit about thoughts if you were going to, moving to some other things with the coding
Right.
and tying it into, so Ed was doing the robotics as well, which was one of the courses, so we backed away from one of the computer courses to do the robotics for us, because he had an interest in that and was knowledgeable in it. And so, the question becomes, can we find somebody who can pick up the robotics, who might have or the coding piece of it? And so we're just looking at a possible, a little bit of a restructuring, still offering a lot of the things that Mr. LaChapelle was offering, but, he did have a coding, and he had a student taking AP computer science in his classroom as well. So he was, the gentleman was more than accommodating.
We're going to miss him.
Yeah, you're gonna miss him, because not everybody would would be as understanding and as flexible as Ed was, so.
Well, I wish him the best in his retirement.
Yeah.
Okay.
So with regard to why I brought up Mr. LaChapelle, is that it was because the timing was perfect,
Right.
that we had his exact last pay.
Oh,
And
okay.
I also, the decision was made, and they found a long-term sub. So we had the exact, we projected out right through the end of the year.
Yeah.
So
That's already accounted for
I
in here.
found some of the money.
All right.
Because I had some, funding in there for, in the FY '20 budget for Ed LaChapelle, and also assuming that we were going to have a teacher for the balance of the year.
Right.
So you had a little bit of a buffer there, so that
Okay.
worked out well. Trying to think if there's anything else. I don't think,
Can I ask one more follow-up
Certainly.
question to the discussion we just had with the long-term sub? Is that somebody that's actually certified as a
So he's
teacher?
actually a certified math teacher. His minor was computer science, and so, that helped us out a little bit. Ideally, we would like to have a computer science certified teacher, so.
I was just curious. Sorry.
And that's what we would be looking for, and that's one of the reasons why we went with the long-term, because we didn't have, there was one gentleman that we had an interest in, but he would have had to have up and left somebody else, and he made the decision that he should finish out the
Finish the
year.
year.
And he wanted to be somebody in the middle of the year, so.
yeah, that's a difficulty
Yeah.
of mid-year.
Right, understandable.
right.
And so finding somebody in the middle of the year is really, really difficult. Actually, if anybody knows anybody, we just had what was going to be a long-term sub at pre-K. It's a 0.5, so it's
Makes
only
it more difficult.
in the morning. So we're looking for, now we got to go try to find somebody for maternity leave. So I'm going to go down and talk to the teacher and tell her that she's going to have to hold off a little bit.
Yeah.
So we can find somebody.
Only a man would say that.
It would seem appropriate if
They
she's.
should really time these right, huh? They should
Right,
be
it's
timing
like-
them for the summertime.
I mean, can't you? So, but
All right. Okay, good stuff. Any other questions on our transfers? Okay, if not, I'd be looking for a motion to approve the FY 2020 budgetary transfers, number 3, for school committee meeting, January 8th, 2020.
So moved.
Motion from Becky,
Second?
second from Kelly. Any other discussion on the matter? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed or abstained? Seeing none. Okay.
Hey, thank you. And after these are posted, I'll bring another budget report that looks,
Look forward to it.
And of course, there'll be other things we'll have to transfer, but there it goes. And I don't have anything else to report.
Okay. That brings us to topics not anticipated.
If I could jump in?
Sure.
Because now that we've talked about Mr. LaChapelle,
Yes.
I was meaning to add that in there. We do have confirmation on 2 other retirements that have been submitted. Nancy Dupree is retiring, and Pam Valapore, who is an OT, occupational therapist, is retiring as well. So we'll be looking to replace those 2 positions as well at the end of the year.
Ms. Dupree, 3rd grade.
Mrs. Dupree, second grade.
Grade, oh, jeez. Yeah.
icon.
What?
Oh,
She's an icon.
Yeah.
my kids and Ms. Dupree, yeah. Oh, that's good. Good for
And
her.
I think she's almost into double-digit numbers, so she's been, those who know her, she's been
Oh, on her
counting down
countdown, yeah.
Yes.
for quite a period of time.
For like
Quite a
a pretty
period of
good
time.
10 years now.
So she's almost down into double-digit numbers.
All right, okay. So no other topics not anticipated? Okay. We are going to need another brief executive session this evening. We'll just need Mr. Maines for that briefly.
Okay.
But if not, we will not be coming back to open session except for the purpose of adjournment. So I'll be looking for a motion to go into executive session.
I move that we go into executive session.
Motion from Julie,
Second.
second from Becky, and I will need a roll call vote for us to enter executive session.
Becky Charniak, aye.
Julie Mulder,
Brett Argel, aye.
Kelly Grady, aye.
Lisa Brown, aye.
We are in executive session.